You're born either in Colombia, South America, or in Mexico. These two places were home to the biggest drug lords to ever live, Pablo Escobar and El Chapo. At their heights, Pablo Escobar was rumored to have been worth over $30 billion, which would have been worth over $70 billion today. He was the 7th richest man in the world in 1989. I mean, after all, this guy's nickname was literally the King of Cocaine, so you can see why he was so rich. And El Chapo supposedly had a net worth of over $1 billion, the 10th richest man in all of Mexico, and one of the biggest drug lords to ever live. So the one thing you didn't have to worry about was money, but being born into a drug lord family was anything but easy. Drug lord babies often live in mansions with expensive toys, high-end clothes, and access to really anything you ever wanted. But most of the time, your parents were nowhere to be found. They had business meetings, people to kill, drugs to sell, and of course, running from the police. And if they were around, they most likely wanted nothing to do with you. They were way too stressed about the day-to-day life of being some of the biggest criminals in the world. Where you grew up also wasn't the safest place in the world. You heard gunshots outside, probably saw your dad kill a handful of people, and a lot of other things I can't say unless I want the cartel to come after me. Drug lords make most of their money by controlling massive smuggling routes across multiple countries. These routes could be used by land, sea, and even air. The routes are used to transport drugs from places of production, like Colombia and Mexico, to global markets, especially the US and Europe. They are known for smuggling drugs using tunnels, hidden compartments in trucks and ships, and even using submarines. Yeah, you heard that right. These guys aren't messing around. They literally go miles under the surface just to make sure they don't get caught. They're just lucky I can only hold my breath for a few minutes, or I'd go down there and catch them myself. Drug lords in the cartel also used legitimate businesses as fronts for their operations, so they would be less obvious. Some businesses, like a tourism shop, supposedly taking tourists around the city, a shipping container company, which would make it significantly easier to smuggle drugs by cargo ships, and mattress stores. These have been a conspiracy for years. How are there so many mattress stores always right next to each other, and how are they even in business? I don't know about you, but I've never even bought a mattress from a store, so something definitely isn't adding up here. There's a 99% chance you would be homeschooled or in private school. You were isolated and taught not to trust anyone outside your family, especially law enforcement or rival cartels. Most of the time, your family was always on the move, trying to evade police and not get caught. But it's not like police were getting into your house. I mean, you had dudes outside with machine guns guarding it like it was a fortress. Trust me, there's no way anyone's getting in there. By the time you hit your teens, it was about that time to learn the family business. After all, you were next in line for it. Some of your responsibilities would be joining your dad to attend some of his, business. You would be asked to guard some of his shipments and even handle some of the cash his customers were paying. And this wasn't just a couple $100 your parents would sometimes give you for your allowance. No, you were handling hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in cold hard cash. So let's make sure you guard it with your life, because if you lose it, well, your dad might be ending yours. In exchange for all your trouble, you get to live a life most people dream of. Expensive clothes, flashy cars, and huge parties are normal. This part is what made most kids like you continue to go down the drug lord path. The luxurious life of crime was hard to pass up. Even as young as 13, you'd be taught how to use weapons or even be sent on missions to take care of some of your enemies. You had almost every weapon to choose from at your disposal. An AK-47, MP5, Desert Eagle, and even a sniper rifle. A sniper may be a little bit overkill, but you'd rather be safe than sorry. And at least it made you look cool. Some more weapons were shotguns, C4, and, armored vehicles. As if it couldn't get any more extreme. They would end their enemies' lives before they even knew what was going on. And apparently they trusted 13-year-olds with weapons like this, so yeah, remind me to never make the cartel mad, or I won't be here anymore to make these videos. As you hit your early 20s and enter adulthood, you have more responsibilities. You would be fully into drug trafficking, money laundering, and even overseeing the distribution network of drugs and guns. So you're definitely not making an honest living. Now you're richer than ever before, but more importantly, you have all the power. The only bad thing was, the more powerful a drug lord becomes, the more enemies you have. And you'll always be forced to constantly look over your shoulder for someone trying to take your spot at the top. With some of your newfound power, you were able to have some influence on both local and national governments through bribery, blackmail, and political manipulation. You had close relationships with corrupt officials, police, and even military personnel who you were able to bribe to do almost anything you wanted. One of the most important things about leading the cartel was making sure you could lead your miniature army. You may have had a ton of problems outside of your cartel, but you also had a ton of problems inside of it. Your own members were constantly trying to take your spot as the big boss, and you often have to maintain your control through violence if anyone decided to step out of line. To make sure everyone stays loyal to you, you had to show them there was no funny business tolerated. This meant threats, torture, or even killing someone publicly, execution style. Sometimes even your own family members, all just to send a message to everyone else, to make sure they don't step out of line. You didn't want to have to do this to your own cartel members and family, but it's either you or someone else, and it's definitely not gonna be you. One of the worst parts of your job when leading the cartel was fighting other cartels. Cartels often fought over control of drug routes, territories, or markets. Your job was to keep a balance between aggressively protecting your turf and avoiding too much attention from authorities. Turf wars were you and another cartel fighting over land you both thought belonged to you. Let's just say these fights lead to a lot of people dying. By the time you reached 35, it was almost the end of the road for you. Most drug lords only survived anywhere from 35 to 45 years old. Part of the reason was the larger the empire, the bigger the target. Law enforcement agencies, as well as rival drug gangs, were coming after you harder than ever before. As your life as a drug lord grows, so does the threat of police catching you and rival groups assassinating you. After being in charge for so long, police have launched multiple large-scale investigations on you and your cartel, trying anything and everything to end your reign. At this stage, betrayal becomes inevitable. Those around you could sell you out for money or protection, anything to save themselves. While other cartel members are busy planning on your assassination, at this age, the toll of constantly living with a target on your back begins to show. You suffer from health problems caused by stress, addiction, and never being able to sleep with so many targets on your back. If you survive to this stage, you start to feel the psychological impact of your entire life's actions. Guilt, fear, and regret. Not to mention you have to think of all the people you've killed. I mean, they might even be haunting you as we speak. If you managed to make it to 45, this was usually when your empire was crashing down. So your two options were dying or going to jail for the rest of your life. So go ahead and take a few seconds to think about it. Have you decided yet? No? Okay, well, unfortunately, it's too late. The police caught you, and now you're locked up for the rest of your life. But at least the police got you before someone could assassinate you, I guess. You could have been born as anything, but unfortunately for you, you were born as a drug lord. So, good luck.